It is the middle of the growing season. You look at your garden, and the plants are drooping, with hardly any fruit even though you have given them plenty of water. Are you thinking about running out to buy another growth booster? I want you to stop. Go into the kitchen and take out just one spoonful of a dry ingredient you use to make breakfast every day. In Amish homes, we do not see the kitchen and the garden as two separate worlds. To us, they are a closed circle. Grow what you eat and save what you grow. The things you call leftovers or cooking ingredients, we call liquid gold for Mother Earth. Today I will show you how just one spoonful of this ingredient mixed with water can help plants grow twice as fast and bear plenty of fruit. I will also show you another liquid that 80% of folks are pouring down the drain, even though it works even better and does not cost a single penny. Stay with me until the end, because I will give you the key to building a completely self-sufficient garden. Starting today, every meal you cook will become a source of life for the next harvest, helping you never pay another penny to the chemical companies again. Before I tell you what the mysterious ingredient in this spoon is, let me first show you what it has done. I have used this method through many growing seasons in my own garden, and then I tried it in my neighbor's garden and in the gardens of a few folks around the area. There was a pepper plant my wife was ready to throw away. I told her to give it a few more days. Then from one small bud on the stem, new leaves began to come out. The rows of eggplants, tomatoes, and peppers behind the house also became greener, stood firmer, and held up better through the hot weeks. One neighbor tried the same method on lemon and guava trees, then told me the leaves looked much healthier. And a jasmine bush that had struggled for years finally began putting out new leaves, and then it bloomed. That was when I knew this ingredient worked, and that it would help most of all those who live alone, folks who have to count every penny of their benefit money, and families who know that a few rows of beans or a bed of tomatoes are not just there to look pretty, they are part of the meal. For these folks, buying one less bottle of fertilizer, losing fewer plants, and having more vegetables on the table are very real matters. None of this began with some trick from the internet. I grew up in a home where the kitchen and the garden were always speaking to one another. In the Amish way of life, the kitchen and the garden are not separate. The garden feeds the kitchen, and what the kitchen leaves behind, when used properly, goes back to feed the soil and the plants. That is not only about saving money, it is a lasting circle of life, with less waste and less dependence. And this spoonful is not the only thing we use by that principle. Later on I will show you one ingredient that can make it work better, and another that can replace it entirely, but first let us talk about how it works. I want you to understand why this method may help, instead of simply believing it like some promise printed on a fertilizer bag. And the mysterious ingredient I have been speaking about is oats. Calling it mysterious may be saying a little too much, since many families still eat it every morning. But few folks take the time to look closely at what is inside it. It is mostly starch and carbohydrates, followed by protein, fiber, beta-glucan, a little fat, and minerals such as phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, iron, zinc, and manganese. But do not look at that list and think the plant will drink up everything after just one watering. Having something inside the grain is one matter. Turning it into something the roots can use is another. The key is mixing it with water. When oats meet warm water, some of the easily dissolved matter, along with very small starch particles, moves into the water. When that water goes into the soil, the plant is not the first one to eat. The bacteria and fungi living in the soil use that source of carbon first. They break down the organic matter and change it, and then some of the nutrients are slowly released for the plant to use later. My grandmother did not call it carbon or microbial activity. She would take a handful of soil, squeeze it gently in her hand, and say, "Do not only feed the plant, feed the soil first. The small bits of oats that pass through will work more slowly." They can give the living things in the soil a little more food and play a small part in helping the soil hold water and nutrients. Soaking them longer, using warmer water or making the grains smaller may allow more of their contents to move into the water. And do not misunderstand me. When I speak of oats, I mean traditional rolled oats that are plain, with no sugar and no flavoring. That is the kind I still see in my family pantry and in many other Amish homes. I am not speaking about those packets of instant oatmeal with maple syrup, brown sugar, powdered milk, or apple cinnamon flavoring. Those things are made to add flavor to breakfast, not to be put into the soil around sensitive roots. And now we come to the part everyone has been waiting for: how to make it. Set the spoon in front of you, because the first thing I want you to remember is to use only 1 spoonful, not 2 spoonfuls, not a full handful. I know folks often think this way: if a little is helpful, then more must be better. But using more oats will make the water thicker and leave behind more starch. That extra starch may turn sour, grow mold, or bring fungus knots, especially in small plant pots. We are making a mild watering liquid. We are not trying to make something thick and strong. So begin with exactly 1 spoonful. You will need nearly 1 liter of clean water, a small pot, a spoon, a piece of clean cloth, and a watering can. That is all. Now pour the water into the pot and warm it until a little steam begins to rise. We need the water hot enough to draw some of the matter out of the oats, but not so hot that it cooks the whole grain. Add 1 spoonful of oats, stir gently and leave it over very low heat for about 5 minutes. You may also turn off the heat after adding the oats and let them sit in the hot water. Now do not only watch the clock, watch the spoon. If the water has become a little cloudy but still runs easily off the spoon, you are doing it right. If it begins to cling in a thick layer, turn sticky, or look like breakfast, stop right away. Do not cook it into porridge. Plants do not need a layer of paste sitting around their roots. We only need the water that has drawn out a small amount of dissolved matter from the grain. If you happen to cook it too long and the mixture becomes thick, do not pour it straight into the plant pot. Take the pot off the heat and let it cool all the way down to room temperature. Plant roots do not need to be given hot water. While you wait, get the filtering cloth ready. Now comes the most important step. It is not the heating, it is not the stirring, it is the filtering. In my grandmother's kitchen, there were always a few clean pieces of cloth folded and kept apart in a drawer. She used them to strain liquids from the kitchen and other things that would later be carried back to the garden. My mother did the same. Later on, Martha kept up that very same habit. Many folks today look at rolled oats and think they do not need to be strained, but small does not mean gone. Very fine bits may still remain on top of the soil, hold moisture, turn sour, grow mold, and attract fungus gnats. Lay the cloth over the mouth of the container. Pour the mixture through it very slowly and let the water run down on its own. Do not twist the cloth hard. Do not try to squeeze out the last drop, because that will force the fine powder through. If you can still see a good deal of sediment in the water, strain it 1 more time. Straining it 1 more time takes less than 1 minute. Getting rid of fungus gnats may take many weeks. Once the water has cooled and been strained well, pour it onto the soil around the root area. Do not pour it right against the stem. Do not spray it onto the leaves, flowers, or fruit. If the soil is already soaked, do not add more water. For potted plants, use a small amount and test it on 1 pot first. Only 1 spoonful. Stop before it becomes porridge, and strain it very well through cloth. Do those 3 things properly, and you will avoid most of the mistakes. But before you carry this watering can all through the garden, I need to make its limits clear. And now I need to speak about the limits of this method, even though many other videos will pass over them and keep praising a simple ingredient as though it were something miraculous. I would rather have you understand it properly and use less than make you believe it is a miracle, and ruin a whole garden bed. First of all, oat water is not a complete fertilizer. It does not have a fixed ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. No one can look at the color of the water and know exactly how many nutrients are in it. That water only carries a small amount of dissolved matter, starch, and organic material. So it cannot replace finished compost, and it cannot replace a balanced fertilizer when a plant is truly lacking nutrients. Think of it as gentle support for the soil, not as a full meal for the plant through the whole growing season, and it cannot fix every reason a plant may be weak. If the plant does not get enough sunlight, the roots are waterlogged, the soil is packed too tightly, the pH is not right, the pot is too small, or the plant has pests or disease, adding oat water will not solve the root of the problem. Do not pour more of the mixture onto a plant that is already sitting in too much water and expect it to recover. When the roots cannot breathe, giving them more food does no good. Next, I will show you one ingredient that can improve this method and another that can replace it when there are no oats in the house. After using oats for many growing seasons, I came to understand something. They are helpful, but the starch and fiber do not turn into something the soil can use in just one morning. I did not want to replace the oats. I only wanted to find something that would dissolve in water faster, so the living things in the soil could begin their work sooner. So I stood before the pantry shelf and looked at each thing, one by one. White sugar dissolves very quickly, but that was not the choice I wanted to use. Martha's honey was too precious to carry out into the garden. At last, my eyes settled on a dark, thick jar tucked away at the back of the shelf. It was unsulfured Blackstrap molasses, and do not mistake it for pancake syrup. What I use is Blackstrap molasses or unsulfured molasses. No corn syrup, no caramel, no bottle made to flavor desserts. I do not want to put flavorings or added ingredients into the soil around sensitive roots. You must use it in the proper order. Make the oat water first. Let it cool. Strain it very well through cloth. Only then should you take out the molasses. Take a very small amount of molasses and dissolve it separately in 1 cup of warm water until no thick streaks remain at the bottom. Only then pour it into the container of strained oat water, stir it well, and use it that same day. Never pour thick molasses directly around the base of a plant. But a family should not have to go out and buy oats or molasses just to try a gardening method. In many kitchens, something much like it is poured down the drain every day. If you want to replace the oats, or plain oats are simply hard for you to find, it is easy. Replace them with something that is easy to get and does not cost 1 penny in your own kitchen. More plainly, it is the cloudy water many families pour straight down the drain after rinsing rice. Rice rinse water. Rice and oats are both grains. When you rinse rice, a very small amount of starch comes off the surface of the grains and goes into the water. That water may also carry a small amount of organic matter and dissolved minerals. When poured into the soil, it does not become a strong dose of fertilizer. It mainly gives the microorganisms a mild source of carbon, much like oat water does. The difference is that you do not need to cook anything. Pour clean water over uncooked rice, gently stir it with your hand a few times, and then pour the cloudy water into a clean container. If the water is so thick and white that it nearly looks like milk, add more clean water before using it. I want a mild mixture, not a container full of thick starch. Use the rice rinse water that same day. Pour it onto the soil around the root area, and do not spray it onto the leaves, flowers, or fruit. Do not use water from a pot of rice that already contains salt, oil, butter, or seasoning, and do not mistake it for dishwater. We only use clean water that has come into contact with uncooked rice. We have covered quite a bit, so before we finish, I want to gather everything together plainly so it will be easy for you to remember. Oat water is best suited for plants that have taken root and are growing steadily, such as tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, beans, eggplants, and many outdoor ornamental plants, as long as the soil drains well. Do not use it on newly sprouted seedlings, cactuses, succulents, or pots that are waterlogged, moldy, or troubled by fungus gnats. Remember 3 things. Use only 1 spoonful. Stop before it turns into porridge, and strain it very well through cloth. Unsulfured blackstrap molasses is only an addition to oat water. It is better suited for mature plants and healthy soil that drains well. Do not use it on seedlings, succulents, waterlogged soil, rotting roots, or pots that already have ants, fungus gnats, or a sour smell. Always dissolve it thoroughly and never pour thick molasses directly around the base of a plant. Rice rinse water is an alternative for homes where rice is cooked often. Use it for vegetables, flowers, and well-established plants. Do not use it if the water contains salt, oil, seasoning, a sour smell, slime, or mold. Use it that same day, add no sugar, and there is no need to ferment it. Choose one method, test it on one plant, and watch the soil first. In gardening, using the right small amount is always wiser than using too much. There may be no way of life that ties the kitchen and the garden together as closely as the way we Amish still live. From the time I was young, I was taught that the garden feeds the kitchen, and what the kitchen leaves behind when used properly goes back to feed the soil. My grandmother did it, my mother did it, and later Martha and I passed it on to our children and grandchildren. But modern life often goes against that circle. It spoils us with bottles of fertilizer, growth boosters, and ready-made products, then gets us used to thinking that when a plant is weak, we only need to pour on a little more. More fertilizer, more chemicals, more money. I hope this video does more than help your garden bear heavier crops and your plants grow faster, perhaps even twice as fast under the right conditions. I hope it also changes the way you look at and solve the problems around you. If what I shared today means something to you, please press the like button and subscribe to the channel. I will see you again in another video, where I will share another old secret that may be even more interesting.